So hello, everybody. This is Dr. Renah Wolzinger, the Director of Customer Success at An-Najah Reality. It's such a pleasure to have Dr. Allam Mousa from Al-Najah University in Palestine. And we have a lot in common, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And Dr. Allam Mousa is the Director of the Virtual and Augmented Center. He has been the Minister of Telecom and IT and the Minister of Transport, as well as a Deputy President for Planning, Development, and Quality at ANU. And we are both engineers, so we have a lot in common as far as the way that we see things, solve problems. And so it's been actually a fascinating relationship already that we've had starting to implement An Reality at An-Najah University. And Dr. Allam Mousa, it's a pleasure to have you today. Welcome.
Thank you, Renah. It's my pleasure being with you, and hopefully we can have a wonderful webinar that everybody may get use and benefit from it.
Fantastic. I just wanted to start out with maybe just give a quick background of the university and kind of the environment that you work in, and maybe a little bit about your teaching experiences.
Thank you, Renah. Actually, this is An-Najah National University. It is located in Nablus. The city is called Nablus. It is in Palestine. Maybe it is one of the largest, if it is not the largest universities of the universities in Palestine. We have more than 25,000 students, and we have many disciplines from medicine to engineering, human arts, laws, fine arts, agriculture, dentist, all this type of disciplines. So it is a very attracting university due to the quality that it is giving, due to the facilities that it have. But in Palestine, we face the difficulty of being almost isolated. So we have to use technology in order to provide our students and our staff with whatever they need. So maybe we can use technology, ICT in general, to bridge the gap between Palestine and the rest of the world. We can improve the quality of performance of our teacher. We can provide our students with the required skills that they need in order to compete, actually. When we say compete, they have to compete not only within the local market, but they have to compete regionally and maybe internationally. So we are using this new project, which is the U1XR, in order to make the life of people easier, to make it more smooth, and again, to bridge the gap with the rest of the advanced world.
Oh, that's just fascinating, especially just the concept of being isolated. I think about bringing in things to people's world that they maybe haven't seen before, and that you can do with virtual reality. And it's growing so fast. I mean, the model makers, it seems like every day are putting hundreds of models out there for us to use and experience. And so, yeah, that's a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much for that. So, yeah, I wanted to ask you, so I have a bunch of questions we're going to ask today, and some of them are around just the product as well and different things that it can do. And so I'll start with a few questions, and then I'll switch to a couple experiences and some visual things that we can talk about.
Great.
But the first thing I want to ask just about, how are today's students different? I know my students today, when I went to college in engineering, I took notes. We didn't ask any questions. And it was kind of hard to understand. I did engineering as well, and just, listening, taking notes. Our labs were very sparse back then, I would say, because you had to go get special equipment and things, and we would go to the lab. But I felt like when I went to work, I wasn't as hands-on. I wasn't ready to build things as an engineer. I was good at math and designing conceptualize on paper, but I felt like it really took a lot of work experience. And today's students, they're born with phones, social media, television even is completely different with the streaming. I mean, it's a completely different world than I grew up in. And so I just wanted to get your take on how you think students are different in like multitasking and how they're different today.
This is a really very important question, because sometimes I feel that we are suffering in understanding the changes, but as time goes, we realize that we have to to admit that there are many changes. I myself, I have been away for a few years away from the university, and when I returned to the university, actually, I really noticed the difference, because it was clear that the life has changed. The style of learning and teaching has changed. Let me say, the interests of the students have changed. So maybe they rely much more on the online access and the internet for a great amount of their efforts. So we need to understand that what was good in the past is not good anymore, may not be good anymore today. And if we need to prepare our students for the future, then we cannot use the tools of the past. Well, most of the instructors have realized that, and I can see when we talk with our colleagues here at the university, we can see that everybody is aware that we need to provide our students with new, let me say, tools, the tools that they would like to use. For example, they don't like to read a textbook, a printed copy of the textbook. They need to find a YouTube, they need to find a video, a ready one, they need to use a PowerPoint that they can watch anytime during the 24 hours using digital media. So maybe we need to provide them with these things, as far as we feel that this will not reduce the quality of teaching and learning. You know, I have noticed that they want things to be ready more than what we used to have in the past. I mean, in the past, the students used to spend more time, and they were willing to spend more time, more effort, let me say, in order to get the information. Now it's very easy to get the information. They have just to Google it, for example, or search it using their digital media. So that is one of the main important changes. Maybe the other thing is related to the knowledge. We used to say knowledge is power, but now everybody can know. Again, we can ask Mr. Google and whatever we want, and he can give us the answer. So now in the past, if you know, then you have an advantage and you can get a job, for example, or you can be promoted. Now everybody can know easily. So it's a matter of not just knowledge, but we go to the skills right now. And here comes the importance of utilizing the ICT, and let me say virtual and augmented reality is an example of that. How can we utilize this to train our people, our students, our workers, in order to be skilled workers, skilled, let me say, engineers in the future, skilled doctors, skilled, painters, whatever. Because when it comes to finding a job or improving the job that somebody is working, he has to have more and advanced skills. It is not just a matter of knowledge. So these are some changes that we are facing. Maybe in the past, people did not notice this, or they did not use these facilities because of the lack of, let me say, resources, or maybe the lack of, for example, high-speed internet or smartphones. But nowadays, almost everybody, and I'm sure that my students are holding smartphones, which is better than the one I have, maybe. So nowadays, these things are available for the students, and we need to use it in the proper way. I know that people are using technology, for example, for entertainment. That's fine. But for our case, we need to use it to educate ourselves and to solve our problems with less efforts, less cost, and faster than before. Hence, we are improving the quality of people, and this is some of the changes that we are facing right now.
Definitely. I mean, it's very fascinating, the changes in technology. I guess I just maybe turn down the speaker a little bit. It's a little feedback I got. So let me try to back up a little bit. I think that's really important, preparing for jobs in the future. And one of the things that always bothered me, I think because I'm also a digital media professor, is that, growing up, the phone was considered kind of a problem. And I'm not sure what they're doing still in elementary, but I know for my kids, being that kind of first generation, they had to take their phones and lock them up and then, pay attention to the lecture. And it's like, well, but these people, these students, you know, just our whole generation now growing up with the phone as their main source of information. Like Star Trek, it's your communicator, it's your computer, it's your access to other people. It's fascinating because it is and they don't like to call each other. They text each other or social media, whatever, and then you have to lock it up to learn. I wonder, if that moving forward, it seems like there's a better way to do that, because if that's your main device, it's like taking away your slide rule in the old days, or for me, taking away my typewriter where, and your phone, if you need to communicate with somebody, or because a lot of learning is collaborating, talking, reflection, we know is a very important concept. And it's hard to do that when you take away your communication abilities, right? So that's a really good comment. I wanted to share something just to kick off our ideas about future learning. And let me just share a window here. There we go. So this experience here, one of the things that we're always interested in knowledge, and you spoke about knowledge. And this is a quick video about making a digital twin. I just wanted to talk about it. We have now newer devices that have 3 cameras, and those have LiDAR technology, which is just basically a scan. It's just like taking a video. So now you can scan something like this is an example of a supercharger that Tesla has, and you can scan it and upload it now right into your phone. And then that becomes a digital asset. So it's interesting how this is used in industry now. And I'm thinking about future jobs and how students are going to prepare for this. We're always interested in information. Like, for example, we want to make better circuit boards, smaller parts, better manufacturing, better robotics. And with digital twins in industry, what they're doing now is they're scanning something. It could be a part, it could be a machine, it can be an entire city, which I'll talk about in a minute. And once it's scanned, they can align it with the real part, and then they can hide it and assign knowledge to it. So basically what you're doing is taking information and it's assigned to something real. So right here, using LiDAR technology, we're taking 3 points and just aligning the scanned version with the real version. And then, so there's a 3rd point, and it's going to be hidden behind this other one. But now you can take any information. So if this Tesla, for example, has sensors, now you can say, okay, I know where this supercharger is. I can see how many cars are coming to it, how many hours a day it's used. Do I need to put more of them there? Do I need to put less of them there? Are they all Teslas, or do I need other kinds of cars? Do I need an adapter? So all of that information will come because you have a digital twin collecting information. So I just think that, and it's in Eon, it's just, really easy because you just have this alignment feature. So it really takes less than about 1.5 minutes to complete this whole exercise. And then as long as you want to add knowledge to it, but it's that combination of real world things and artificial things. In this case, a digital twin that's scanned, that is really changing the world of technology. And so it's a new thing coming in. I think as an engineer, I go back and think about, the things that I've created, like in medicine, like, for example, equipment that as the hospital is using. I could have been collecting like how many people are using it, how many machines, what do I need for replacement parts. There's so many things that come to mind in terms of digital twins and sensor technology. So it's new, but it's one of the things that is really new for our next generations of students to prepare for jobs. And I just wanted to get your take. And I know it's also a new product, and so that Eon has, and so we're rolling it out, but it's actually very common in industry, really driven by IBM, in fact. And one of the cities that really took off is Las Vegas. Las Vegas, they have enough money to kind of take things down and rebuild, so they can see like how many parking lots they need. Do they need to move a building and make a bigger parking lot? Do they need to have more hotels and convention space? All because what they did is they scanned the entire city. So using photography, aerial photography, and drone, and then they have sensors and all these things, and they overlaid the digital twin of the entire city with the real city, and they collect information, but they see where it's being collected from now because they have that twin. So it's growing so fast, that use of artificial, information with real information. So just wanted to see what you thought about that and futures of jobs.
Yes, of course, Renah. Thank you for this very great example. Actually, the resources are not available for everybody. A city like San Francisco or some of the rich cities all over the world, they can build whatever they like. But not everybody can do that. And not even every university can do whatever it wants. Even not every student can have his own lab. But if we use technologies, then we can maybe do simulations. For example, we can do, in the past we used to do simulations using a software which will give you results. But now the simulation, when I say simulation, we can make simulation, unfortunately, for an earthquake, for example. What happens if an earthquake happens? Then we can have a digital system, a digital simulation of any example that you would like to have, that we cannot do it in reality, and we hope that it will never happen, such as earthquake or even a war. So now we can build our plans based on the results of the simulations that we may simulate using the technology. So using artificial intelligence, using blockchain, using LiDAR and the other systems that we have, digital twins, for example, as if we have that in reality, but it is with less risk, almost zero risk, and even it is with very cheap in cost in terms of the expenses, and it is secure. So we can build based on our expectations that we have simulated. So in the past, we need to have very huge and expensive devices. Now, even your smartphone can do similar to these simulations. So this is, again, why we need to use the technology in order to improve our future. And it is becoming cheap compared to what used to be in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, because it brought to mind something that happened recently. I was at University of Southern California, USC, and there was a meeting of the aerospace engineers in the master's and PhD programs there. And they said, if we had seen the systems that we're working with, we could think about the safety design while we're learning. And because they're learning kind of the concepts and everything, but they didn't really have actual, like the actual simulation of their building. So, and I never thought of that, because I'm like, I kind of think about, okay, if you have a simulation of, and like they were talking about helicopters and airplanes, and they were talking about safety and accidents, and all of these helicopter pilots from all over California were talking about different scenarios. And they're like, yeah, so we learn how to design those. But if we see like the simulation of it, it's different. We're like, because we're not learning about these crashes. We're not learning about how these systems interact. We're just learning about the systems. So it's the first time I heard students look at the technology and go, oh, well, this is great. Like, because they think of other things that we don't think of, because we learned in a different way. So it brought to my attention that I'm not going to think of everything that they're going to think of to use this.
Actually, it's not only this. What you have mentioned is great. Actually, one of the experiences that we had a meeting for let me say a training session for some of our staff. Let me say faculty members, and one of them, after the training, he said, "Well, this looks nice, but it is not that. Not that excellent." That was before I showed him how to use the headset. Once he saw the headset, actually, he realized that when we talk about virtual reality, the first part was something, let me say, theoretical and how to use the 3D models. But when he puts on the headset, now life is becoming much more different than before. So this makes it a little bit more demanded, and it is more required to have assets that are used by many people. For example, engineers would like to have certain type of assets. Either we talk about the 3D assets or the 360 assets. Maybe doctors or physicists, or let me fine arts, whoever, chemists, somebody who is interested in different type of models. So it's the time right now to start providing these assets. For example, some of our students have already started to build the assets. They are not just using it. They started even to produce assets. And now they are more confident that they can be producers. They are not only receivers. They are not only learners. They can start even to teach, even to produce. And this gives them the ability to find better job. And this is one of their requirements. So I agree with you on the example that you mentioned about the university in there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, the content is growing so fast now. I remember the first online photo things I used, like iStock Photo and Getty Images for, regular pictures. And the 3D space it's actually a great opportunity for students who are in digital media as designers, especially in education. And so, but every time I turn on something like Sketchfab or TurboSquid or CD Trader, there's literally hundreds of more models each week that I see. And a lot of them are education focused. So I don't think I know the word is getting out. So if I look at chemistry models, I can find models of a lot of chemical interactions that would be like kind of the things that we're studying. And I think the other thing I've seen growing is I found a lot of medical content. There was always an anatomy and physiology, but like MRIs and X-rays are coming up, CT scans. And so, EON's a platform so you can bring in all of that content. And then, like you mentioned, Mr. Google, but you can have your own professor. So the way we defeat that as professors, I found, is if I do a lecture and maybe smaller chunks, maybe 15 minutes at a time, or I can do an hour. But if I host it online, like on YouTube, I can bring it in. And so they're still going in the internet, but they're finding me talking about this thing and then bring it in back into EON. So they still have to listen to me at the end of the day. I love that.
Directly or indirectly. Yes.
So yeah, because sometimes, you have to lead them down the road of, getting the correct information. That's our job, as professionals as well. So I want to share another experience in terms of scale and talk about that for a minute. So let me share this. This is something because we talked about, you see this. Okay. On my phone, I did an experience where there's a lot of scaling. And so I did let me come over here. Like, this is a good one. So this is a model that I got from Sketchfab. It's a little model there, but in the thumbnail, when in VR, just looks like two characters. Like, so it doesn't tell you a lot of what's going to happen here, but this is when you go into augmented reality, which is emerging, what you see, that's all the real stuff. And then the model and it has some automation in it. So now you can interact. And I think this is just the beginning. And this is just looking through my phone. So it's really, when I look through my phone, it's kind of blows my mind. It's like, oh, that looks so real right in my house where I am. And this is my little music area. I teach music as well. And so I'm adding content. This could be lecturing about costume design or whatever. And then my students will be having that information. I have text, images, and photos there. And if I turned up the sound, they would actually hear a soundtrack with that information. So, so what I'm thinking though is, because now avatars are changing, and also in EON we're using new avatars coming up that it takes an image of your face, and then it has you can also motion capture and do things. So I could like simulate a procedure. It'd be great for something like dance or something, but also just even like welding or things that you want to do certain procedures. So the scale and information, and I could be talking about that experience. So this virtual and augmented reality, I wanted to get your take on that. I think it's fascinating being able now to merge reality with something. Another thing I do with that is I teach microphone placement. So I have like real instruments and then microphones that I might own some, but there's a lot that I teach about that are maybe at the school or at a studio, but they're very expensive. So I can bring them in and say, this is how you use a microphone for different various instruments or singers or choirs, and then place them. And so, I just wanted to talk about that merged XR experience and that scale and that automation and kind of what you think students would react to that.
Renah, actually, this is exactly what we need as educators, as professors. We need to make the life of learning for our students easier, and we need to talk with them the way that they like it, as far as it is correct, and we feel that it leads to improve their performance. So again, we come back to the idea of how can we use technology in order to deliver our knowledge and the skills. So you mentioned a good example, which is teaching music. And teaching music, you are dealing up with many instruments as well. And you need the way that you record the sound which comes out of the instrument is extremely very important. I myself, I'm also teaching something similar, which is called speech processing, where we need to record the speech and we need to analyze the speech. We need to digitize the speech. So sometimes we cannot find the real material. So we have to use a digital version of that material. When we talk about the vocal cords, for example, or about the lung, how you generate voice, well, it's not easy to go and find a lung. So yeah, of course. So we can find a digital media, and here the students can analyze it. Even if it is destroyed, let me say, then it is digitally destroyed. No problem. We can just press the button restart, and then we can have a new version of whatever you like. Then the students can keep learning and learning until they are ready to go to the, let me say, the real life. Again, there is no chance for them to make mistakes, but while they are learning and using digital twins, then at least it is secure and safe, even if they make a mistake, even if they destroy, between parentheses, the digital twin. So that example shows us that we can come over our problems and we can over the shortage of resources that we have. But this leads us again to the first point, is that we need more resources, digital resources. So who's going to prepare these resources? At the very beginning, honestly, I thought that we have to find it somewhere. But we have started recently to produce those resources. And who is producing the resources? It's not only the instructors, it is also the students. They do it with love. They like to do it, especially when we encourage them and show them that, okay, you are producing something which is equivalent to what the international society is producing. So now I have a competition among the students, and everybody wants to show to himself first that he can be successful in producing digital media. So teaching the students, one, we can be facilitators, but what is important is that they are learners. They are not just receivers. It is not just they receive what we talk or what we say, but they help us to produce knowledge from their point of view. Maybe we are facilitating what they are doing or saying, but it is, again, very good for them to feel that they can produce the knowledge.
I think that's a huge point. I found when I teach, again, that little feedback, I'm just waiting a minute. There, it's from the speaker. Okay, there we go. So when I give students everything that I want them to do, they still do things their own way with their own opinions. And so I really love what you said about that. And I talked recently with a psychology professor, and we were talking about, okay, well, do I need like a model of the brain or whatever? And I was smiling when you were talking about music, because my singing teacher, I'm a clarinetist, and it took like a whole year for me to learn how to breathe properly to sing and open my mouth, because clarinet, you're clamping your mouth down. And she brought me physiology books to show me what I'm supposed to be doing, and I couldn't understand it. So that's why I'm smiling. It was, I mean, I didn't know I was doing that. I've like developed extra muscles. I've been playing clarinet since I was 8 years old. So, you know, and I still play professionally. And so it's to sing and to change my muscles from, you know, waist up, right? Everything from my lungs, the way you breathe in your mouth is a completely different way for singing versus playing clarinet. So anyways, that's why I was smiling. I was relating to that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So in psychology, so he's asking, so do we need to model the brain, or like, what do we need to do? And I was thinking, a lot of this is teaching a little bit different. So I was thinking, what do you visualize when you're a psychologist? And I started to research through Mr. Google, about psychology in the field. And it turns out they're all using augmented reality because they're creating scenarios in their clinic that they don't want to go to a place that's causing a certain emotional response, so they can bring it in their clinic. So they do have goggles and they have things on their phone now. So what I said is, or I think he came up with it together, what students can do their own research and look for an asset that might elicit, or maybe a series that then elicits certain responses, and then do like a, psychology research and, with APA references, the whole 9 yards in the experience. As students pick those, they come up with the questions, they learn how to reference correctly. So they're learning all the modalities of, and you and I know from doing doctoral studies, that type of research, the type of citations, but now they could utilize the 3D and they can pick those assets. Mm-hmm. So it's completely the opposite direction of looking at anatomy and physiology. That's a teeny piece, but it's really about, helping people, right, through situations. I'm not a psychologist, but in my engineering perspective, that's how I perceive it. And so I thought that was pretty brilliant. And so I think a lot of this is like kind of linear thinking, like what is visual in your world? And I think about like areas like accounting, but still you're counting numbers that are affecting a business or something. It's not just numbers. So like there's always scenarios that you can create. And then when you do and that's the workforce piece, right? That's that leap. You're teaching something in theory, but how does it affect things, in reality? So that's how I kind of encourage kind of using assets, and let students choose them based on assignments, So I think that for me, it's been working because students want to go and look and do things their own way anyways. And then my job is to teach them, to be successful and find their pathway. And I think you're also right. Students that are designers, they have a lot of opportunity to build things. In the past, as 3D Studio Max, Blender's become a huge thing because it's free and it's supported by all the big companies, so that people can create their own information in the 3D world. And so it's free to us, but actually like it's still being supported by big companies like Microsoft and Apple and all that, because they want content. So it's like, here's this thing, create content, please. Yeah. So.
Well, creating content is very important, but that leads me again to a very important point that you have mentioned. I feel that each student is a school by himself, in the sense he has his way to do things. So maybe we used in the past to say this is wrong and this is good, but it seems many of them are doing things correctly from their perspective. So we have to add to them the general aspect and the general guidelines. So dealing with the students, actually, maybe it changes the way that we see the life, because again, they are different disciplines, they are different characters, and so they may provide different solutions. So again, the solution is not unique in many of the cases for many of the problems. So we have to deal with our students. And again, we are using this new technology to show them that you can, as a student, you can be a professor, you can be a leader in your topic. Let me say, for example, you give them projects and few students are coming with different solutions. You look at it, it is different, but it is solving the problem. So this is maybe a new way, and maybe it's not a new, but it is one of the ways that we have to deal with our students, in the sense that they have to feel they are partners in the teaching and learning process, and they are not just receivers. This is how I believe, actually.
Absolutely. And I think that's a huge thing that's changed in learning in the past, definitely 10, 20 years, because we were really receivers and we read the books and we had the highlighters, and it's very different now. So, and it's challenging because us as the teachers were not raised that way. So it is challenging for us, I'd say. I want to share another thing around training and talk about this and about even training during the pandemic. And this is a model from Boeing, and it's a beautiful model that they made. Let me turn this down a little bit. So it's a exact model of the 777. I added some videos and content so students could learn about the different equipments. But over here, I had one of the problems I have in my school is just getting people to come in, talk to my students. On Zoom, you can schedule them, but now on here I can save them. So I did one where I'll just show you a few seconds of it. A pilot explaining the equipment in here.
In the center of the lower pedestal console is a backup flight management system computer, but it's normally used for communications.
So he goes through for 15 minutes and explains all this equipment, how it works, and our avatars are in there. This isn't a spatial meeting, so that he can point to the things and I can watch right there. So we both had our phones. We're at different places, and then he's doing that. Then I took a screen recording in Eon and saved that so I can share that with other students as well, in the future, because it's a valuable experience to share. So spatial meetings, gives you that, or you can be walking around like a hospital and going through equipment. You could be walking through a lab. In the non-sciences, like I think about museums or architectural sites. I've seen some beautiful architectural sites all around the world where you can walk around together. So it's not just recording, but you're actually moving around, looking at things. You can move things because they're actual models. And so, and then I always try to screen record even when I'm out doing this stuff, if I'm in a meeting, because I could save it and then I can, share with other students with things that, on your learning management system, you can always save content, or I could put it on my YouTube channel or something like that and bring it in as a future video. So I wanted to get your take on spatial meetings. It is new as far as, we didn't learn like in things like, I think Second Life was the first kind of app that did that, where and then like kind of like Minecraft where kids are building their own things, and now they're here learning with us in higher education. And now they could go with their avatar, and the avatars are changing, like I said, very quickly. I think in the next couple months, they're going to look very different with your realistic face and everything that comes from your web camera. But you're going to be in the experience with other people. So you see each other moving around, and you can go talk to somebody, and you can go, okay, let's do this thing together. So I wanted to see what you thought about that type of learning.
Again, Renah, how many students have the chance to be in such a place, such as Boeing or maybe Mercedes or BMW or, NASA even, or wherever you like? Very, very few of the students, even the staff, can access such places. However, using this technology, spatial meeting, for example, or this type of technology, it makes the student feels as if he is really inside that place. So he is immersed, and he is not just watching a video, he is living the life as if he is really there. And there are a few examples that I have met during the last few months, actually, where people were saying, okay, it is just watching a YouTube. Then when they put the headset, or when they see the avatar, for example, and the avatar is moving from here and there, somebody is talking to him and he is talking to others. Well, this is something that he cannot forget. And this is something that makes it much easier for him to understand. And it makes him feel whether he understands or not. And if he does not understand, he is living the experience. He is not just watching it. He is making it almost. So this type of teaching and learning actually emphasizes what we are looking for, which is to provide our people and our staff with the required skills so that they can be more self-confident when they go to the industry in the future when they graduate. Even because of this type of training, we're talking about teaching, and also we're talking about training. So training is not only for students. We can train our students, such as going to the labs or going to the virtual labs, but also we can train the workers I said at the very beginning, we are interested in improving the quality of life of people. We need to improve their skills. So the workers, and as I said, the worker could be anybody. The engineer is a worker, the doctor is a worker. So we need to improve the quality of their performance. We need to enhance their skills. So it's not easy to send them abroad for high-level training, but we can bring the material right to their homes, even not to the offices, even to the homes, so that they can get the training anytime during the day. Even if when he comes back from work, he can choose the suitable time and he can get a training as if he is in the real training room or the experimental room. Again, I agree that this is one of the good approaches, and this is one of the good practices that we are using in order to improve quality of life of people.
It just brought me to mind as a young engineer, when I was designing products for the Asian market, Japan, and my job was to make medical products that were smaller for people that were smaller, like myself. And I wasn't able to travel to Japan. So I was training doctors in the US in person and making these other products and then sending them. But it would have been, what an experience it would have been to communicate together without just the phone. That's all we had. You know, at the time, we didn't even really have like internet and all that. And so in doing the training, the surgical training together, so now that could be done. It just brought that to mind, all the things that it could have happened, you know, that way. So it's really interesting. There's so many scenarios where it'd be amazing to have people that you can't get access to usually. I'll give you an example. Once in a while, I get invited to something really special. And one of the things I got invited to was they were doing the mixing for one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So they have like 200 musical tracks and very, very expensive thing in Hollywood. And then if I could have shared that with students, with the mixing engineer who's won multiple awards, Academy Awards for mixing, I mean, and then save that and then have students talk with them and then just even to see it, because I could have scanned the whole thing or even had a model of that equipment. So anyways, there's so many possibilities with it, but it's something that I find really important because I think when students they're going to connect with somebody, and it might not be me, but it might be somebody in industry. And so I want them to have that opportunity to see, you know, how people are doing their job and if that's interesting to them, and then ask them questions. That might be the one spark that gets them to go in that direction. So, yeah, I just think that's a interesting thing. So let's talk about during the pandemic for a minute. So our lives changed. I was in a lab teaching all my students and looking at their computers, seeing what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, okay, go home for 2 years. So how do you think learning's kind of changed and have things kind of accelerated with the pandemic into like kind of ed tech and technology and things like that? I mean, like social media, like are people like tired of Zoom? Like, do they need more, you know, some other different thing? What are some thoughts that happened there with the pandemic?
Let us talk about actual and practical issues. Now, before the pandemic, life was going smooth. People are happy, more or less. Then suddenly the pandemic came and we found that we cannot go to schools. So we have to keep our students and the staff at homes, away. So we have to stop teaching. And that was not a good decision because it has lasted for many years, 2 years so far. So the universities started to utilize their resources in order to keep the students and the staff awake. They need to keep them working, learning, educating themselves. And those who has to graduate, they have to finish school, and life has to continue. So the universities which were ready, in the sense they have a minimal requirements for e-learning, they managed to complete and to compete as well. Now, what about those who were not ready? Well, they wasted their time and efforts until they built the required resources. Now, luckily, An-Najah University was one of the leading universities in the area, and we managed to keep the track, and we managed to keep awake, and the life was continuing. Now, let me say, post-pandemic, what happens? We realized that many of the duties that we used to do before the pandemic, we can still do it right now, but using digital life. And this is that still we can use e-learning, still we can use advanced technologies in order to deliver, let me either the courses, the lectures, the labs, whatever. So now we have to take our decision. What are the items that we need to do it, let me say, remotely? And if there are some things that we have to do face-to-face, then we have to choose these things. But this, again, will save our efforts in general, the educators, the universities, even the schools. It will save the resources, the time, the efforts. And again, because we know how to deal with things right now, then we can still produce people who are qualified, people who have gained the required knowledge and the skills, and they can even use it in their future life. So it's not just a matter that we want our students to finish what they have to finish, but we want to make sure that they are equipped with the new technology, with the new skills that is needed nowadays. The world is going digital right now. When we talk about Metaverse, for example, so obviously people are going to the digital media, even the way that they live, maybe the way that they buy or sell, maybe the way that they are traveling, they're doing their exercises. So while we are providing teaching and learning to our students, but also in addition, while we are doing this process, we are equipping our students with what they need in the future to be able to work with the, let me say, the future way of living, maybe on Earth.
That is really fascinating. I forgot about that we exercise with technology, and we've really kind of turned the corner. I think maybe the pandemic accelerated a lot of that activity in maybe blending the digital life or digital tools with real life. And I'm wondering now, with the gas crisis and things, and eventually probably moving to more electric technologies, if that's going to be the next impact in technology, because if you maybe can't get everywhere, in a reasonable cost, or, you're still going to use technology to communicate and to teach and to learn skills and perform. It's going to be an interesting time, I think, but I wanted to talk about kind of just the EON technology that, has really changed from, there's no coding now. It's really a window into a world, right? You look through your phone and another world is right in front of your eyes. If you put on the goggles, you're just in the world. So, and now, and the learning, there's been a study from Price Waterhouse that it's 4 times faster to train in the classroom, and like something 275% more confident applying skills that you learn after the training, because you're actually doing things, and you're more connected to your work, and you're more focused, of course, because now you're not just on Zoom, you're immersed in something. So there's no way you can't be immersed when you're in this technology that I found. In fact, since I've been working, when I'm making those examples, it is one time, and there's not that many times in life anymore that I turn off everything else, because now I'm in here, I'm scaling things, I'm adding content, and so it is one of those times where I turn off my email and everything, because if you think about it, you can't do that type of immersion and then answer emails or check your social media or anything. So even for me, because I'm a multitasker, that's the one time when I'm doing these things, I turn off all my other stuff. I just let it go. And I've noticed it because it's not easy when you're multitasking and you're used to, and kids are used to that, right? They're texting all day, doing things all day, but this makes you be engaged. At least that's been my experience. I mean, I can't, there's no way to multitask and do it at the same time.
Well, but you know that people have to be multitasking in order to do things on time and the way that they want, actually. Otherwise, it may take some extra time. Multitasking by itself is a huge duty. I think everybody is doing multitasking, but with different levels. So, right. In a way or another, we have to work multitasking in order, again, to produce the product or the service in the way that we want it. So, can technology help us to do that? Actually, as an engineer, that we are talking about multitasking processors.
Right.
So it is doing many things at the same time, blah, 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 blah. So again, computers are doing what we are asking them to do. And again, virtual reality or augmented reality is doing it in the way that we wanted to do it. So it's not for the users, it is for the developers. They tell the augmented reality or the artificial intelligence system in general, I want you to do 1, 2, 3. So it does what it is required to do. So here comes the question. If we know what we want, then we can ask the machine to do it. So the users or the end user, let me say, maybe they don't know how it came to them, but their feedback will tell us as developers that, okay, I want you to improve this. The performance here was weak. The performance here should be improved in a way or another. You did not get into consideration the following parameters. So this is how we improve. When we talk about the versions of anything, we are talking about version 0, version 1, version 2, and so on. Actually, because of the feedback that we get from the end users and the quality assurance that we are doing to our products, we realize that it can be enhanced, it can be improved. Maybe we cannot do it at the first shot in its perfect way due, for example, shortage of resources, shortage of skills, shortage of hardware, shortage of software, shortage of experience or experienced people. But as time goes, we are getting better and better to the destination. And as you notice, the life of people is getting improved because we are learning from the past in order to make the future better. This is how I see multi-processing and how I see the feedback and the quality control of the performance of our work. Actually, everybody has to control his way of life and everybody has to do a plan for his future. So the plan needs assets. The plan needs capability to perform your projects. So technology is providing us with a huge resource of tools that we are going to use in order to achieve our plans. Again, this is how I see the things.
Absolutely. And that brings me to kind of my last area, which is a good segue into it, because I love artificial intelligence and recently was on a project to kind of look at the world's certifications and how skills are connected to them and which programs they're in. And it's like a giant mess of millions of data points. But with artificial intelligence, we're pulling it out of catalogs and information. And there's a big government databases now that are trying to figure that out. They sort that out. So when you design a new program, you can figure out the skills to teach. And so I was thinking about in EON, some of the favorite features. I know one of mine is like using the artificial intelligence to bring in content, because I realize I can bring in my own lecture material. I can bring in photos. I can bring in scans. I can bring in pretty soon multiple models. I love environments. So I love, taking students, like I have that one in the cockpit, but I have the recording studio, all kinds of different environments. So there's so many different things, augmented reality. I think that's where the world is going with building the metaverse and, online assessment in that environment. It's different than doing a test. Now you can see, like, if you're assembling or disassembling or doing an order of operations that like you would do in a cockpit, because they do that all the time. They take the book out and they go through, okay, you know, do this, press this circuit, do this, turn this on. They go through that, and you can touch all those points and then have the students do the same order and even record that experience. So, I mean, you can make things really huge, like you can walk in a real building, or you can take a circuit board and look at one little piece and have it showing just in front of you as big as you want. So you can show things that are hard to get to, you know, underwater, animals swimming, dangerous situations, you know, doing firefighting, dealing with things that are very high and dangerous, working on an oil platform. So I was going to ask you if you have some kind of favorite things that you can do in augmented or virtual reality, or any favorite features in XR that out of any of that giant list, or anything else?
Well, honestly, I liked it in general, but of course there are some points that may make it even more attractive. For example, when you talk about assembling and disassembling any object, you know, if we use the traditional way, and here when I talk about the traditional way, I'm talking about technology. I mean, such as using PowerPoint presentation, for example.
Right.
So in there, well, you can show pieces or an object as one unity, but using the assembling and disassembling, then it's simple for the students to see how it is attached or detached. And here you can add whatever you like, such as adding certain videos to each part. One important items, I liked it in here, which is called the 3D recording, for example.
Yeah.
I am, as the designer, as a teacher, or as a student, because as I said, even the students can do that if you give them the permit, and we did this for our students. They can create their object, and they can talk while they are pointing. So when you hear your voice talking and pointing to certain points, or when you hear the voice of your instructor who is talking to you, and he is pointing as if he is really in front of you during the class, then this makes you, again, as a student, feels like as if you are inside the classroom. So I have seen that we have many items that are integrated in a beautiful way that makes it easier for the teacher and the instructor and the student to live as if they are doing it face to face. 3D recording was beautiful. And then I have seen something that the students liked, although they know it in the past, which is called text-to-speech. They love to type text. You know, it's especially for example, the people who are using different languages.
Yeah.
Maybe they can type a text, but they cannot speak it properly. So they just type a text, and the text is converted to voice. And even you can choose who's going to talk. You know, this is text-to-speech, and it has certain categories or certain, you know, advantages. So as a whole, the tools that we have in order to create our course or to create our lesson makes it, the tools enable us to make it more accepted by the students, and it is even more demanded by the students. You know, by default, maybe some of the students do not like to study, but in here, they love to see what is new. And this is new for them, so maybe they will like it, and it will attract them, especially when you ask them to do it. So we go to the other point, which is learning by doing. So they have to prepare the lesson. In the past, we used to ask them to prepare a lesson using the conventional way. Maybe they prepare a document and they read it, for example. Now they are using the tools, they are using the model, they are adding their voice, they are adding the video that they think it is more suitable for the lesson, and they are adding the text or even the image. They are adding quizzes, they are adding, you know, activities, the way that they think it is more proper for either the students themselves or for the doctor. So many of the items are really wonderful, and I think it will add a lot to the teaching and learning process.
That's fantastic. I just have one final question, and then any comments is, with the new technologies that everybody's building these kind of smaller glasses instead of the bigger ones like the Oculus and the Magic Leap and the Vive, but like Apple's building them. I know Microsoft. So I think, I know Google Glass was not successful. It was kind of ahead of its time, but it didn't do a lot of things, you know, that you would want to do. Maybe you can answer your phone or something, but the new one's supposed to like kind of replace the projection system. So it's going to be some, you know, phenomenal engineering in those, lightweight, and just, you know, instead of putting on, because goggles are pretty heavy for me, they're, you know, a big thing. But if I was just putting on glasses and getting to do this, it's almost like, you know, holding my phone, but it would be easier when I think about it if I had glasses on and I wasn't holding my phone, but I could still kind of do all the things I'm doing in AR. Any thoughts on how that might revolutionize things? Because it would change the immersive, you know, because it really takes you out of where you are into this new world. And students, everybody loves that. If you're a gamer, I mean, that's what you love to do.
Well, again, it is the tools that we need. So the tools in the past, it was very expensive. Maybe it was very heavy. Nowadays, it is becoming more usable, such as the small glasses that you are talking about. We have many of these glasses. We have the headsets, and we have the virtual reality glasses. Let me say, if we call it a glass, and the augmented reality. But what is important is the small glasses that we can add to the mobile. And when we talk about the mobile, everybody almost has a smart mobile. He just has to add that glass, which is very light in size, and relatively it is very cheap, and it is durable, and it is affordable, and it makes the user feels as if he is inside the media, especially when you talk about the 360, for example, 360 videos or images. Mm-hmm. However, what is good is to provide the user with a variety of tools, and he can pick up the one which is suitable for him.
That's a good point.
Price-wise, complexity-wise, you know, whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah, these little, I have them here, these little things that you put on your
phone.
Do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, which I use every day. I love the Oculus for when I'm walking around a space, and just the way it scales, and I love the joysticks, and I know I read that they're putting cameras in the paddles.
So this is the one that you're talking about.
Here we go.
You just put it to your mobile this way, and you just start to use it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
wonderful.
So I'm really looking forward to, you know, the new avatars, the new glasses when they come out. I don't know when that is, you know, if it's this year, next year, whatever, but the engineering behind those, and just, you know, having more people have the opportunity for those experiences. But any last thoughts?
Oh, Renah, thank you so much indeed. I have the chance now to exchange let me say, the knowledge that we have, and I learned a lot from being involved with such an important project. The team here is very happy dealing with such a project, and we believe that utilizing this project in the proper way will improve our lives, will improve the chance of our students to find jobs in the future. And it is not just any job, it is the job that they demand, because it's not going to be only local, but it can be international. Why? Because they have the skills that the international society is needing. And ICT in general, especially augmented and virtual reality, is the future, even in business. So we are catching this idea from the very beginning, and I hope that we will continue with this project again for the benefit of a human being.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to talk with you, and you have just so much amazing things to say that we hope to share with the world as soon as I post this, probably today. And I just want to thank you for your time, your insight, your experience, your leadership. As a fellow educator, I appreciate everything so much. And I know I'm having really the time of my life, even though it's later in my career, just seeing this evolution. I remember fighting for digital media, years ago, and people thought, well, that's not important. It doesn't need to be required. And here we are today where, it's very, very important. So for me, it's a very exciting time. So engineering, and for engineers that watch this, so why does this happen? In engineering, you learn how to design products. So design, digital media, and engineering are really together. And I don't think it used to be that way, but I was always a design engineer. So learning, I actually sat in front of CAD machines, 2D, 3D renderings, my whole career. And so digital media and engineering for me is one thing. That's the way I learned it. And I'm a biomedical engineer, so designing those medical products. And then they have to interact with physiology and anatomy and people. So that brings in all the medical. And that's the way I think that our students are learning today in these combined fields. And digital media is part of it, no matter whether you're doing English or kinesiology, science, non-science. And so that's kind of the way I think, hopefully we're meeting students where they are and where they need to be for the future of work. So, but thank you so much for your time, and we'll be posting this, and I hope the world sees this fantastic interview with you, Dr. Mousa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Renah. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Right. I wish you the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.